Hi, welcome back to CineMunn Podcast. I'm Vince, your host. I'm here today again with my two friends, Benjamin Briggs.
Hey, yo!
And Tommy Metropolis.
Thanks for having me.
Got a few topics we want to discuss. We're going to talk about some new Blu Ray releases that came out yesterday, and of course, our movie quote of the day. Let's jump right into it today with, first things first, Mad Max Fury Road has just released their first official trailer, not teaser, but their first official trailer for the film. Benjamin, what's your thoughts on the trailer?
Well, as you remember, this was during the first podcast. I mentioned this about the trailer coming out, something I'm looking forward to, been looking forward to it ever since the date is released. Coming out in summer of 2015, so mark your calendars, keep an eye out here. Vince, let me tell you, I love this type of style of movie. I love how gritty it is, how nasty it is, how rough this movie looks, and I'm going to tell you right now, this is the summer blockbuster of the summer. Guarantee, hands down. No other movie you want to go see for an action flick this summer. Guarantee it.
Really?
Hands down. That's what I was watching this trailer release. My heart was pumping. I was on the edge of my seat. And you know when your shoulders start to kind of curl up and you get that tension in your neck?
Yeah.
It's exactly what I was feeling watching this performance. I love it.
You should get your shoulders checked.
You gotta go to the chiropractor to get it worked out.
Tommy, what did you think of the trailer?
I think it looked flashy. It reminded me a lot of Road Warrior, and
I'd hope so. It's part of the Road Warrior
it
series.
is part of the Road Warrior series.
It reminded me of Thumbelina.
Okay, what I'm saying is,
I know what you're feeling.
seeing the trailer, it just looked real flashy. It just kind of, since it reminded me a lot of that, I don't know if the story's going to be going even further or it's going back. And it looks more like it's just kind of making it flashy for a new audience. It's not to pull in the new audience, so they'll go back, rewatch the whole franchise.
If you can find it.
Yeah, if you can find it.
Which I'm sure they'll coincide a Blu-ray release or something of the sort, a combo pack for the first three films to kind of celebrate the release of Fury Road. I'm sure that will happen.
I'm sure it will happen.
A studio, they'll take advantage, completely take advantage. I would. It's a great way to make money. It's a great way to introduce, because now you think about the audience that there is now of people, within the last 10 years who know nothing about Mad Max series. They don't know the Road Warrior. They don't know Beyond the Thunderdome. Obviously, if you grew up in that period of the late 70s, early 80s, when those films came out, when Mel Gibson was young and still at the beginning of his super career. When he still had, yes. When he still had his Australian accent before it became completely Americanized and lost it. So I'm actually fairly excited. I'm not the biggest Road Warrior fan. My dad got me to see it a few times. It's not there was something that's really stuck in my mind, aside from the fact that how gritty it is, how dirty it is, Australia is perfect for a barren wasteland. You ever want to do a zombie film in complete desert waste? Go to Australia. And I think George Miller's. It's nice that it's the same director and writer going back to his own franchise. He wants to update it with effects, with new actors, with a new storyline, and I think that's smart. I think that's the best way to do it. If the director looks at it and says, "Hey, I want to do more with this project. This is a piece of me. This is a piece of my history," and people like it, I say, why not? And the nice thing I really noticed with it was the majority of the effects you saw in that trailer were in-camera effects. They're all practical stunt effects, fire effects, pyrotechnic effects, all in-camera. I'm sure done on location, on the shoot, with maybe minor digital touch-up to it.
Yeah.
Just to add maybe a little more to the environment, a little more to the look. But overall, I'd say the majority of that is going to be practical effects. And I think that's the one thing that really brings back to the old Road Warrior series, is that it was all stunts.
Exactly.
It was a lot of stunts, a lot of car stunt work, car driver. It was fun. It's fun.
Speaking of which, you see the style of those cars they have?
Right?
They look great.
They're like devilish dune buggies.
Woo!
They're great. Yeah.
Can't wait to see those.
It looks. The only thing I would say that I really want to see, I think it'd be hilarious if they brought Tina Turner in for one scene. Just one scene.
Yeah.
The woman's 75 years old, but I'm sure people were.
She still got it.
She still, she still got it. So yeah, the trailer overall to me, it looks fun. It's not my most anticipated, but it's definitely one worth seeing on the screen.
It feels more of like an homage to the fan. To dedicated fans, of course, but like I was saying earlier, just to pull in a new audience, get them familiar with the franchise, and I believe that's director's pull, is to get just everyone kind of up to date with the Mad Max trilogy. So that being the aim of this trailer, because honestly, from the trailer, there's not really much to depict as far as story or anything that fans already know. It's just like it's being flashy. It's like you said, stunts, pyrotechnics, all those kind of effects, and definitely the practical effects. Looking forward to that. So,
all right. Well, moving on to our next topic for the night. If you may or may not have heard, Sony Studios was recently hacked. Actually, I think Sony as a company, Sony Entertainment, was hacked or had their emails, personals, all their production notes and everything leaked onto the internet by God knows who. One theory was that it was an inside job. One theory is that it was North Korea doing it to try to stop the release of their film, The Interview, coming out December 25th. All those have yet to be proven, so it's all just theory right now. But one thing that did get released out was, back in October, Sony and Marvel Studios were in talks to potentially produce together another Spider-Man reboot. If you saw Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I did, unfortunately, it's 2.5 hours of my life I can't get back. It was not that good. I mean, Sony has had the rights for a long time. They produced 2 excellent films, 1 okay film, and 2 that I really don't care for. You can decide which are which. Different people have different opinions on The Amazing Spider-Man. I really didn't care for it. The first film or the second film just made it worse. It was the nail in the coffin for me. It had a lot of good potential, but I gave up on it about halfway through, and it was just too much, too soon, I think, for what they were trying to do. But Marvel and Sony were in negotiations to bring the character back to Marvel in a deal of a 60-20 control for Marvel Studios to bring Spider-Man into Civil War. Part of Marvel Studios Phase 3 is Captain America Civil War, which if you've read the Civil War storyline, you know it pits Tony Stark against Captain America in the battle of, do superheroes register with the government and reveal their secret identities? If you know the history of the Spider-Man comics, one of the most guarded secret identities ever before a character was Spider-Man in those books because of how personal it is to him, how young he started dealing with his Aunt May, with Mary Jane, with Gwen Stacy. He had one of the most heavily guarded identities in comic books. So when Marvel Publishing decided to reveal Spider-Man's identity in the comic books to all the other characters in the books, it was a very big thing. It became a media-breaking story. I mean, it was all over the news. CNN, NBC, MSNBC, Fox News, everyone, they actually reported about Spider-Man being unmasked in the comic books, which, it's a comic book, but it was just big news. So, Sony and Marvel were going to join together and let Spider-Man be in Captain America Civil War, which is coming out in 2016. I can't wait for that film. Apparently negotiations broke down. Sony said no to the deal, which is unfortunate because it would be nice to see the web slinger back at Marvel Studios. Tommy, what do you think about Sony saying no to Marvel's potential offer to bring Spider-Man back into the family?
I honestly think Sony may have shot themselves in the foot here. The 60-40 deal, I can understand, was turned down because Marvel wanted the character. They would have gotten character rights back, meaning they have all the creative property for that character. However, like you were also mentioning with the Amazing Spider-Man, the way it's going right now, I just don't really care for it. I mean, you look back at the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, they're fun, they're witty, they got the comedy, and it gets you more drawn to that comic sort of feel. With these ones, the Amazing Spider-Man, I just don't see that. I see that kind of serious tension, and I don't like the way they're portraying Peter Parker. I know there's so many ways you can portray him, but as far as paying kind of that tribute to the comic, I mean, you're going to say, if you're using Spider-Man, keep it Spider-Man. Use the character. And with that being said, the reason why I feel like Sony did such a dramatic change with Peter Parker is because they rebooted Spider-Man way too fast. And now
they had to, because otherwise they would have lost the film rights.
Well, that's understandable, but even
with Fox with Fantastic Four, they have to be in production by a certain date. Even for a while, Fantastic Four had lost their production start date, and they got pushed back to almost the very edge of them losing the character rights.
Right.
But they still went to production on time and filmed on time. So I think that's part of the reason that Sony rebooted Spider-Man. A lot of people, when that happened, said it's too soon. It hadn't even been, I think, 10 years since the last film, when they did their first reboot.
See, I think what they did is they did what the third original Spider-Man did, and they had too many characters in the second one.
Right.
There had too many different stories going on. It
Yeah.
wasn't focused enough. And it's just a lot for the audience to take in, you know?
Yeah.
It is too much. And I think what they heard was when Mark Webb had done the story, had directed the film they had was a much more coherent, had a good character arc for pretty much everyone in there. It made sense. And from what I understand, the hands of the studio kind of muddled in there in the water and produced what we got.
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, kind of having all those villains in one movie just teaming up against one hero, it just kind of, it puts that, like, that reverse aspect to, you would see of, like, the Avengers or Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have all these heroes joining together and going after the villain, but instead, what Sony's kind of doing is taking multiple villains and teaming up and going after the hero. I just feel like that slightly might be how Sony's coming up with this way they want to portray their Spider-Man franchise, because I mean they have so many characters to work with, and I can see they're just trying to pull them in and get their audience to be familiar. It's like, okay, I know who that is, and that way I'm familiar with the rest of what's going on in the universe. But it feels overwhelming, and I feel like it didn't have enough of a pull to get even the old audience back into it. I feel that's where the Amazing Spider-Man is struggling right now, is because it can't pull back the old audience. It's only bringing in the new. And for Sony's lineup for the Amazing Spider-Man, I mean, you're talking Sinister Six, you're talking about Venom, you're talking about 5-6 movies down the road, and we're already seeing kind of an issue with
Seeing the chinks in the armor, basically.
Right. And the thing is, like I was saying earlier, they rebooted it too quick. Character's already been established. Sam Raimi's kind of set up this image for him. And then Sony just turned around right away and said, we are going to re-image him completely. So you're going to see The Amazing Spider-Man. What you're seeing is that you're seeing the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, even though you're watching The Amazing Spider-Man. And then they just don't work together. I mean, when you see movies based off of a single franchise, you want consistency, even if it's a reboot. I mean, there's other reboots.
Well, I mean, the potential of a reboot is to reinvent and redo the character. I mean, when they rebooted RoboCop last year, it had familiar beats from the first film, from the original Verhoeven film. It had, he dies. They do the OCP owns the body, so they do this with him. It's an experiment. It's the first time doing it. They had all those main points, but overall, it was a very different film. From the Peter Weller RoboCop to the Joel Kinnaman RoboCop, still the same character, still the same basic plotline, which they did with Amazing Spider-Man. They still kept the same things. Parents are gone. He's raised by Uncle Ben. Uncle Ben dies. It's part of the whole Spider-Man thing. He gets bit by the radioactive spider. He starts out in one thing and then transitions to another. Now, one thing they did do right in the Raimi films was the him starting as a wrestler, which he did in the comics. If you read the old 60s comics, he starts out as a wrestler to make money. They really didn't do that with Amazing Spider-Man. He's still kind of that kind of emo kid and just kind of going out vigilanting in the night, which I thought was very...
Yeah. I mean, even I recall from the first film, he does show a bit of cockiness, cockiness, and just
that is the character, Pete. I mean, if you reading Spider-Man comic books, if he's not kicking ass and saying some smart ass thing at the same time, that's part of what Spider-Man is. He's still that kind of teen mindset. Even in Civil War, when he's a young adult, he's still got that mindset of shooting cracks. Gotcha. And that's what makes it fun. That is something they had right in Amazing Spider-Man in the beginning, and then halfway through the film just dropped off. And I don't know what happened. I think I saw it as not character suicide, but a loss of truth for the character. And then that should have stayed.
Another thing, like you said, it was supposed to be fun, and the thing is, I feel just the atmosphere of the films, the Amazing Spider-Man's, it's dark.
It's darker, yeah.
And again, when you're trying to grab a new audience, you're introducing a dark film with a kind of humorous and funny character, that balance just doesn't seem like it's going to grab the audience's attention, at least in my perspective. But
do you think Marvel needs Spider-Man? Do you think Marvel Studios needs Spider-Man?
I think so. I mean, he's a classic icon. I mean, you've come to get to know him. I remember watching, the Spider-Man cartoons when I was young, every Saturday morning. And like you say, you have that jokiness. You have that kind of slapstick, funny humor type thing, which a lot of people have come to get to know. I think now what they should do is kind of take it like how Nolan has taken the Batman series. We had the kind of ha-ha funny with Batman and Robin. we had that. Okay, now we're entering,
man.
the more serious, the more, darker side of the Dark Knight. And I think I kind of like that. With Watchmen, we got to see the underbelly and the truth of what a superhero has to deal with. With Dr. Manhattan, it's not just being the superhero. There's all this heaviness that goes with it, and we're seeing that now in the Amazing Spider-Man. And I think we kind of, if it's getting that darkness to it, we got to kind of stay with it and not, differentiate too much, going off the field and trying to, because like you say, it's just like the villains, it's a little too much, going too many different directions.
So can you see like a dark Nolan Spider-Man cracking wise jokes every time something dramatic happens?
I could. I mean, because it could have that dark humor, kind of like how we had with, Heath Ledger cracking his jokes as a joke. I mean, I get, obviously, he's a Joker. That's what he's supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, then you go, you kind of get that, little Deadpoolish feel. The whole thing with kicking ass. I mean, he doesn't have his dark twisted story, but you still got that thing where he's kicking ass, he's making jokes, but there is that seriousness to it.
Yeah.
Maybe not every
not
time.
Every time, but I mean, still. See, I think right now, Marvel Studios has proven that they can hold their own without their flagship characters. I mean, they don't have the X-Men, they don't have Spider-Man, they don't have Fantastic Four, and these are established. Obviously, Fantastic Four is their first true mainstay comic was Fantastic Four, first one by Stan Lee, and they don't have that, and they're doing just fine without them. I mean, look at they have films planned out for the next 5 years already in the pipe, ready to go. Start production. They've already started pre-production. I'm sure they've already started casting. I'm sure some of them are already cast and they just haven't said anything because they need to hold on to that. They want to make it a big deal. That's the nice thing about Marvel. They make it a big deal because they know it is a big deal to the fans. They really kind of have fun with the fans in doing that. And they invite, like they did that announcement back in November for the Phase 3, and they made it a big thing. Come down to the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. Fill it up. We're gonna show you some stuff and where we're going with this. And it was smart. They have fun with it, and it shows in the production and the films that they produce and the way the cast talks about the films. For the most part, I mean, everyone has their off days, but for the most part, you're not going to sign into one of these films that requires a minimum of 5 on a contract unless you're having fun with it. And every now and then people drop off. Like Hugo Weaving kind of said he really doesn't want to come back to the Red Skull, which is too bad. I would love to see him come back to that. He was perfect for it. Mm-hmm. But again, I don't think Marvel really needs Spider-Man. I would love to see it. I would love to see him in Civil War. He was a big part of Civil War. But from what I understand, when Feige said, Black Panther is filling that role.
Yeah.
He's already filling that role. So they really don't need him.
Well, they already have a game plan set.
Yeah,
and
they have their ideas set without certain characters. And obviously they've shown they can make it work. They made a friggin' raccoon work that talks smack and shoots a gun. And they made it work, and people loved it. My wife loves Guardians of the Galaxy. She loves it. I mean, I bought it, and she says it's more hers than it is mine. I don't know where that came from, but apparently it is.
If you want me to take Temptation away, I'll go ahead and take it with me.
How about you don't? How about you don't? Do you want to give me $30 for it?
I'll just take Temptation away. But going into the whole negotiations, I believe it's... I feel more Marvel was kind of taking the initiative here because they know that what the fans want, and they know Marvel can give it to them. Sony can only work with Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's not going to create the Spider-Man Avengers or anything like that. It's going to be the Marvel Avengers, and to complete that universe, they're going to need the cooperation of Sony, or they're going to need the complete character rights back. And like I said earlier, Sony shot themselves in the foot because if this deal comes around again, I doubt Marvel's going to be as, saying we want to do the 60-40. They're probably going to change it either 70-30 or 75-25. At least that's my prediction. But again, we'll have to see how things turn out with the future of Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, speaking of Marvel, apparently Al Pacino has said he's been in talks with them for a potential role in an upcoming film. What film? We don't know. What role? Obviously, we do not know. But he has been keen on it. He spoke very highly of Guardians of the Galaxy once it came out, saying how much he loved it. He thought it was brilliant, it was bold, and he would love to be part of that world. But Benjamin, do you think Al Pacino would fit into the Marvel Universe as a character?
I think it would. I think he could do pretty good. He's got the attitude, he's got the charisma, he's got that tough kind of superhero look to him. I'd like to see him in there. I think he could do a pretty good job. I'm sure everybody who's a Pacino fan, wouldn't mind seeing him in there. It might be a little bit of a shock at first, but hey, anything's possible, right?
Yeah, I know the shock you're talking about too. It's like I'm going to see Al Pacino in a Marvel movie, and it'd be like, I'm just thinking of Scarface or some other movie that he's done where he's portrayed this character, and like I don't want to get distracted from the movie as I'm watching it. But at the same time, I mean, he does have the talent, the skills to pull it off. And again, nothing's been announced for what he's going to be going for. Just that he was really fascinated with Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's talked to Marvel about, hey, I'd like to kind of work with you guys in the future if you have anything there.
Well, hey, Seth Rogen could be the Green Hornet.
Oh man!
Oh
man!
No offense to Mr. Rogen, but
No, Green Hornet to me was fun, but I think with Al Pacino, I think Marvel is not one to just cater to actors. They do not cater really to ego. I mean, you could make an argument that the Downey Jr. negotiations are the exception, but for the most part, they really don't cater to ego. They cater to what fits the story, what fits the character. If you can fit into this role, we would like you for this specific part. And they're fairly adamant about Chris Evans playing Captain America. They went to him 3 times, and 3 times he said no. And let him think, and they let him think about it. I mean, they had their options before them. If he had said no again, I'm sure they would have moved on. In certain aspects, in certain roles, I mean, you tend to look at one actor and say, yes, that's who I want. For the most part. And I think now Marvel doesn't even need to do that. People want to work with them. You have legendary actors working with them, wanting to be in their films. Robert Redford did Winter Soldier for his grandkids. He said, my grandkids love these movies, and they would love to see me in them. He got Winter Soldier. You have Ben Kingsley, an Oscar-winning actor who's got an amazing reputation in Hollywood, playing, quote-unquote, the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. You have Anthony Hopkins, who is, an icon of horror with Silence of the Lambs, playing Odin in Thor. I mean, you have these great, great actors that have said yes to these films. That is the last type of film you'd ever expect to see them in. I'd never expect to see Ben Kingsley in a comic book movie. Yeah. Ever. I never would have thought of that. But he's done it. And he's enjoyed it. They've all said they've enjoyed it. They loved working with him. So I think it's neat to see big, well-respected names in Hollywood saying, yes, I want to do a comic book film. Not just because it's the thing, but because they see how successful it is. Mm-hmm. It reaches a wider audience. Let's say you've never seen a Glenn Close film, but you've seen her in Guardians of the Galaxy as Nova Prime. Now you're going, she was good. Now you're thinking to yourself, she was good. I want to see what else she does. And you can actually expand your own personal movie experience by delving into these individual actors' careers and looking at what they've done. Some movies I've never seen Gandhi. I can admit that I've never seen Gandhi. But I know Ben Kingsley won an Oscar for it. I know he's nominated for Schindler's List, and I remember seeing him in that. And it's weird to see that person play into a comic book film now. So I think adding Al Pacino to that would be a lot of fun. Obviously, he's already delved into comic book films in the early 90s when he did Dick Tracy with Warren Beatty and Disney. So it would really just be him going back to Disney again and doing another comic book film for Disney. I didn't think about that till right now. Wow.
Variety is the spice of life, right?
Do you think Marvel's a bit more selective on this process because of the whole case with Edward Norton and the Incredible Hulk?
No, I don't think so. I think that was an exception. Norton had done rewrites on the script, but apparently not enough to really garner a writing credit.
But I mean, he did approach Marvel and say, "I'd like to do this." Yes,
he did. He did approach Marvel, but he also, I'm not trying to discredit Edward Norton or anything. He does have a reputation in Hollywood as being a bit of having the last word on performance, on script, on edit. He wants. The man just needs to direct his own film from start to finish. I think that would really fulfill that need in him. He's a great actor. I love him. I love American History X. I loved him in The Illusionist. I loved him. I thought he was a great Incredible Hulk. I really did. I dug it. I bought it. I believed it. But when you are hired by a studio to play a role, to play the character, and that's what your contract is, that's where your interaction ends as well. I mean, yes, you can have suggestions on the script, you can have suggestions on dialogue. A lot of actors do. Every actor has a suggestion. Hey, this will make my role better. Hey, this will make it different. This is something new that I would like to have. You present it to the director, to the writer. But ultimately, it's their script. It's their film. You need to respect what they want. And ultimately, it's the studio's film. Unfortunately, with Norton kind of had a falling out with Marvel Studios, with Kevin Feige. And that's really what hurt it. And that's unfortunately why he didn't come back for the Avengers as the Hulk. And they had to recast the role again. And it's just too bad, because I think he would have fit in just as well as Mark Ruffalo. The nice thing with Mark Ruffalo is he was pretty much immediately accepted into the character by the fans. And they bought it and they loved it, and he's done great with it. And I'm not saying he knows his place, but he respects the studio enough to say, this is the character, this is how I want to present the character, and they've said yes to it. So far, everything has worked with them and him together. And that's a process I think more actors need to remember. The unfortunate thing with Hollywood is that ego does tend to get in the way. We'd love to introduce a new topic of recent releases on Blu Ray and DVD for your home viewing. Some of these films we'll talk about that you will then hear us readdress later in the year as they come out. So Benjamin, I know you've brought a list of what has come out recently this week.
So unfortunately, I couldn't find anything for today, December 10th, but thankfully I have December 9th Blu Ray releases for December 9th. The number one, which I'm pretty sure is going to be on everybody's Christmas list, Guardians of the Galaxy.
What is it? I've never heard of that movie. Is it any good?
It's alright. It's a little something, a little independent film.
It's a little independent film?
Yeah. You might have heard of it.
I heard it made like $1 or $2 at the theaters.
There's some guy named Chris Pratt in it. I don't know if you heard from Parks and Recs. So he's supposed to be in the Jurassic World movie. There was Dave Bautista. I don't know if you heard his name floating around. There's some guy, Vin Diesel or something.
Something?
I don't know.
Oh, doesn't he do those car racing movies?
No, that's some other guy.
Oh, okay.
It's Tom Hardy. No, I'm just messing. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, probably the number one release. I guarantee it's going to be on everybody's wish list. We have Gremlins, the 1984 version, and unlike this any other version. Sorry about that.
There's the 91 sequel.
Okay, there you go. Well, the first one. We have Forrest Gump, The Green Mile, Doctor Who, the Complete Edition. So for everybody out there who's a Doctor Who fan, look forward to that.
Oh, man.
We have the 1989 Batman. We have Ben-Hur, not Ben-Him. And something else I thought was kind of interesting. We have the WWE True Giants. So we have people like Andre the Giant, Yokozuna, Bam Bam Bigelow, Vader. So a little behind the scenes of some of the biggest characters in sports entertainment.
Nice.
Those are the ones that I thought really jumped out. There's plenty more that came out.
I believe it.
But those, I think, are some of the big name ones that people are going to look forward to. You know, I'd like to pick up Guardians of the Galaxy. I think it'd be fun. Definitely Forrest Gump. Can't go wrong with Tom Hanks. Love his work. And The Green Mile as well. Probably get Ben-Hur. And maybe even WWE Giants. Get that from my mother.
For your mother?
Huge WWE fanatic.
For your mother. Tommy, you looking at picking up any Blu-rays this weekend? For Christmas? Or just for yourself? Just for fun.
Fascinated with Guardians. Definitely that would
Guardians.
Be must pick up.
I picked up Guardians and have watched it several times already.
Oh yeah, the copy you gave to me.
Shut up! I gave you no such copy. Why you lying? Why are you lying? Don't lie, people.
No,
Are you? I think you are. Picked up Guardians myself, and my wife loves it. She loves it more than I do, apparently, according to her. And the copy I bought is hers, not mine. So apparently I have to go buy my own copy of Guardians of the Galaxy, even though we live together in the same house. We're going to leave you off with today's show with our movie quote of the day, coming from the year 1982. It's an animated film. Movie quote of the day goes, "Courage of the heart is very rare. The stone has a power when it's there." If you can tell us the movie that came from, again, it came from 1982. It's an animated film. Please leave your guesses and or correct answers in our comments. Follow us on Twitter at CineMunn. Follow us on Twitter at CineMunn. I'm your host, Vince. I'm here today again with Benjamin Briggs and Tommy Metropolis.
Alrighty. This
has been our third show. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for subscribing. Please subscribe to our page if you have not already. Like our videos, leave comments. Find us on Twitter at CineMunn. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.